The whale is wrapped in a subcutaneous envelope of fat called blubber, a man in khakis said, cupping his hands. Trying to imagine the properties of blubber, I could only conjure the agar desserts sold in Korean supermarkets, opaque, calorie-rich, and possessed of a curiously unimpressionable tactility. While in the ocean, the whale's blubber insulates it and allows the animal to maintain a constant inner temperature. Out of the ocean, the blubber smothers it. This whale has the opposite problem to hypothermia, the wildlife officer explained. Though we were shivering, the whale only yards away was boiling alive in the kettle of itself. That night, a group of us slept lightly in the dunes, arrayed like question marks and commas on the white sand. Our minds cast to the cetacean huffing behind the swale, then swooped back into cloudier visions. Surfers arrived in the early hours, bouncing down to the water's edge. They stood watching. I woke and brushed a second skin of pearly sand off my cheek, my shoulder, one thigh. Were those sharks raiding a luxe channel tipped up by the moon? Hard to tell. We resolved that the whale had been washed too high on the beach for any shark to reach it. Rinsed by pewter light, every detail was particular and peculiar. Ridges in the sand, plants like handfuls of knives. It felt cold. It felt cold to us. By sunrise, a part of the whale that ought not to be outside of it was outside of it. A digestive organ, frilled and bluish in the foam. The whale's billiard ball eyes tumbled in its head, and its breathing sounded labored. The shark slid into vapor, a squinting rumor. No blood on the tide line. People stayed back from the water's edge nonetheless. Swept slantwise, shallow waves smoothed, over-smoothed, smoothed. I palmed an unremarkable shell that sat for months afterward, furred with dust on a ledge in my room until it was lost. A cordon was set up. Seagulls flew down to peck avian hieroglyphs in the whale's back, their inscriptions legible to yet more skyward gulls that dove to elaborate the wounds. At every nip, the whale flinched, still intensely alive. Walking off some agitation I'd accrued watching the birds, I found one of the wildlife officers crouched away down the beach. A blocky guy wearing wraparound sunglasses, his jaw was set tight. The whale's central nervous system was so large and complex, he explained, that euthanizing it in the manner that one might kill a cow or an old horse was impossible. A bolt through the brain would take too long for the heart to register it. A shock to the heart wouldn't transmit immediate death to the brain. Exsanguination, opening the animal's arteries and leaving it to bleed out, could take many hours. A day, even. The volume of blood spread across the beach would be gory, epically so. Talking with the wildlife officer, I began to think of the whale's body as a sort of setting in which dying could take place at multiple sites, over different durations. The animal, alive on a great scale, didn't die in an instant. Only parts of it did. The humpback's death wasn't, in a word, global. This was the kind of death people call a death of 1,000 cuts. The humpback's face, so much as any whale can be said to have a face, its eyes on either side of its huge head, its nostrils in its crown, did not agonize, grimace, or wince. Neither did the animal cry out in anguish. People on the beach took this for a dignified stoicism, though we were only familiar with the human cosmology of pain. It was dawning on me that because a whale's body is attuned to its oceanic environment, and because it occupies such immense physical dimensions, it might suffer uniquely according to senses I then knew little about. The wildlife officer told me there could come a point when strapping the whale with dynamite would prove the most humane option. The cleanup afterward, which needed to be thorough and hygienic if a whale had run aground on a popular public beach, was expensive. How expensive? In time I'd look it up. Another humpback found dead nearby a few seasons hence cost 188,000 Australian dollars.